Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to be invited to this altar, that we might grace it with our presence and receive you. In the name of all undines, then be seated. We are Neptune and Luara. We come then for the purification of the waters of the earth, the waters of the emotional bodies, of all souls incarnated and those on all levels of being. Our service then also relates to the astral plane, where the desire body moves as the tides of the sea. Let me then take from you, first of all, a certain presupposition which is inaccurate, that all undines live in the sea, and that many undines live in the bodies of fish. Some undines overshadow entire species of fish, overshadow them to the extent of becoming one with them and assisting the evolution, the forward evolution of life imprisoned in these forms. Other undines, beloved, do move upon the land. They move in all octaves. They have considerable adeptship, and like other elementals, in past ages, some undines have crossed over into the human kingdom, and therefore have become a part of it. Thus, those who are the sons and daughters of God are the shepherds of all elemental life, and sometimes the children of God have intermarried with one or the other branches of the elemental kingdoms, and thus evolution has continued. It is often difficult for mortals to understand how beings of nature can inhabit nature and yet eventually take over human form. There were ages when this was possible, and there are many upon earth who have shared in the elemental kingdoms as well as the angelic kingdoms. Thus you see, it is not only the purification of the water element that we are about, which situation in this day is surely a desperate one, as so many among earth's evolutions do not have water that is suitable for drinking or for maintaining the balance of that element in the body. However, beloved, as grave as this crisis is in the earth today because of major pollution, the crisis of pollution of the emotional bodies of mankind is far greater. For the crisis has reached such an extent that a high percentage of those living upon earth have degrees of insanity to major forms of insanity for the very pollution of the four lower bodies and the inability of the soul to harmonize with the mind, the brain, and all aspects that make up the individualization of the God flame. Thus, beloved, there are mighty undines who lead other legions of undines for the purification of the levels of the astral plane and of the bodies of every single evolving soul upon the earth. When you think of this task, beloved, before you become too alarmed, I should tell you that it is by the grace of Saint Germain, Omritas, and other hierarchs of light that there have been sent to this planet reinforcements in each of the four branches of the elemental kingdom. Alas, then, you find in this place a greater purity of air and water and of land, and also of the mind of those who are spiritually inclined. For it has been seen that those who even live in the purest places upon earth, if their minds are not clean, will themselves pollute those areas with the impurities of the mind. And so, beloved, various hierarchs have come to you pleading for the use of the violet flame on behalf of elemental life. Amritas has given you 48 hours each month. So you understand what the violet flame can do, but we come again to tell you that the undines, who have not immortal life save those who have reached the levels of adeptship and have bonded to Christ and therefore have received a flame, these are hierarchs who are a part of the etheric octave, yet guiding those undines who are at lower levels. Those ones then who have that flame, they lead other undines, and there is such a great necessity for a violet flame unto these elementals, since they serve tirelessly, unceasingly, sacrificially, that mankind might continue its course, that people might yet have life, that they might yet have the necessary balance of food, of water, of elements in their bodies, that there might yet be a resonance between humanity and the Christ consciousness. The balance then of the elements in the four lower bodies and in the psyche is something that elemental life must be concerned about, and so they are directed by their hierarchs. These blessed servants then serve without a threefold flame, and yet almost as though they had that flame, yet they cannot be empowered with that flame until the sons and daughters of God rise up and bind the black magicians and the fallen ones who abuse elemental life. As you see the abuse of animal life as well as human life on earth, you understand that the elementals must rise and accelerate to a new level of being before they can be entrusted with a threefold flame. And therefore, the hierarchs of these kingdoms, and many in our service, do supply that very element. We supply the threefold flame on behalf of those who serve and those who are coming out from under the oppression of the fallen ones. Think of the pollutions of the rivers of the earth, of the waters under the earth, and of the seas in our time. Think then again of the rising and sinking of continents, of cataclysms, of the misuse of nuclear energy, and of all forms of toxic wastes that have been dumped in the planetary body, necessitating cataclysm, and therefore for the washing of the continents, for the purification, for the restoration, for the bringing in of new dispensations of a new era. It is for the reason of pollution. At least it is a major reason that there is cataclysm in the earth at all, for life cannot continue, else we shall have aberrations. We shall have coming forth from the womb those babies that no longer resemble human beings. This is the possibility of the mutations that can occur upon earth when these radioactive elements come into the womb, come into the body, come into the mind and brain, and thus actually, eventually alter the genetic code endowed in human life through the original Adam and Eve. For they surely were the original ones who set forth the archetypal image of what man could be, of what woman could be. Thus Maitreya's mystery school brings not only twin flames of God full circle, but also elementals who were there at that hour and who were there for the sponsorship of the earth body and the bodies of those twin flames, whose karma and calling necessitated that they descend from higher octaves to the etheric level. Maitreya's mystery school could therefore have been unto this day a mystery school in the etheric octave, a place which you long for and think about and remember as having the great golden age civilizations and the mystery schools. But, beloved ones, for moving astray, going astray and following the fallen angels, there was a gradual descent to lower and lower planes of being, until you find yourself here and now at this level. There are levels below this level, yet they have not become entirely physical. I speak of the astral plane and the planes of death and hell. Yet, beloved, the pollutions of the earth body and the bodies that you wear at the level of the earth body as it is today are becoming so intense that there is certain concern, grave concern, amongst the Elohim and the hierarchs of the elementals and the chiefs of the elementals and the angels and the devas who guide and teach and comfort and support them. Therefore, we are gratified that the Darjeeling Council has called for this conference, that you might dedicate yourselves with violet flame on behalf of the elementals, clearing them of the records, the hexes, and the cursings, the imprisonment of themselves in the service of the Dark Ones. If the Dark Ones no longer had elemental life in their service, they would be bereft of those whom they have used and abused for hundreds of thousands of years and more. The understanding that these are like lost children who have fallen through the cracks should be upon you. Whereas angels maintain a tie to their hierarchs of light, elementals also maintain that tie, yet we maintain it for them. They are the only ones of Earth's evolutions who do not inherit the flame of immortality except by sponsorship of an ascended master or an adept of the Great White Brotherhood. These elementals then have no Christ consciousness of their own, but the Christ consciousness and the flame of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has given to them the certain momentum of resurrection's flame, that they might know that one day they too shall have and inherit eternal life. And you also know that this shall come about when you yourselves have expanded that flame and become masters walking the earth, and therefore could sponsor elemental life, millions of elementals, by the uniqueness of your own threefold flame. Life then awaits the maturation of humanity. It awaits the self-realization and the self-liberation of the sons and daughters of God. These sons and daughters of God are shepherds, not only to angels in embodiment, not only to the children of the earth, but also to the elementals. Thus, beloved ones, to call to beloved Omritas, and to call to the great central sun magnet, to once again magnetize all elemental life to that central sun. This is indeed a high cause, a holy calling. Indeed it is. Let us understand, therefore, that many valiant souls in the earth who are not tied in an outward sense to the Great White Brotherhood are yet taking their stand and defending elemental life, defending every form of animal life sponsored by elementals. Yes, beloved, where there has come into being a kindness, a sense of nonviolence, and a peace, that is truly in the right direction. Ultimately, many elementals are imprisoned in animal forms, and this should not be, and one day they will have their liberty from being thus imprisoned. And so you see, we are in an interim period on planet Earth, the interim period when those life forms that are not complete in the sense of having the manifestation of man and woman, yet those life forms persist, and those life forms are not made in the image and likeness of God, and yet they are made and created by certain levels of angels, and not in the allegiance of God, who determined to use the genetic code and the genes of a higher life and to imprison that gene and that code in the lower life of animal forms. Subsequently, these animals have evolved according to their environment, according to the necessity of the climate and other factors. And so that elemental life, because it is made of God's life and yet imprisoned in a lower matrix, yet evolves toward God, yet it is the consciousness that evolves toward God, even though there may be changes over long periods of time in the bodies of animal forms themselves. And so you can see that even in the creation of certain levels of the animal kingdom, there is an imprisonment of the elementals. and these may be undines or sylphs or gnomes or salamanders, and therefore Earth may be seen as an experimental laboratory, a laboratory that was chosen by Nephilim, fallen angels, and laggard scientists who had the knowledge of genetic engineering long before they arrived upon this planet 500,000 years ago. They considered it an ideal place for their experimentations, for the entertainment of themselves, or for their low-life living, where they required, or thought they required, the partaking of animal blood, or even human blood. Human sacrifice has passed from these times for the most part, yet it is still practiced unbeknownst to the vast majority of the population. Yet, beloved, these fallen ones created animal life and sustained it upon earth, principally for the purpose of being able to drink blood, not blood of humans, but blood of those animals closest to humans, because they themselves had engineered them partially from human genes. This is a very complex subject, but what it boils down to is that life is imprisoned on planet Earth. And insofar as you allow yourself to be the prisoner of your own karma, your own electronic belt, your own dweller on the threshold, can you say that you are much better than those who may be of a lesser kingdom, but who may be more benign and less malicious and less harmful? There are many animals upon earth who are vegetarians, who do not harm other parts of life. Yet man does harm other parts of life and his fellow human beings. Somehow, the certain routine of animal life, though you know that those animals do not have the intelligence that you have, bears a stamp of integrity that is no longer found in certain forms of human life, where there is cruelty, where there is genocide, where there is murder again and again, as Cain killed Abel, and the blood is spilled upon the ground. Thus you see, beloved ones, sometimes those who have manifested great evil in the earth are cast into the bodies of animals. And you remember Nebuchadnezzar, who did eat the grass for an extended period of time, like the cattle. So you see that evil consciousness is more evil in this age, for the presence of fallen angels, first in humans, and others who have become their underlings, and then ultimately this consciousness has been passed on to certain aggressive forms of animal life. Thus, I bring you to the level of the astral plane, where undines abide to keep the purification and the balance. And I show you a certain glimpse of yourselves, a certain glimpse of the planetary body. How many people upon this earth do you really know who are not prisoners of something, whether of base desire, whether of their own desire for money, prisoners of their own state of consciousness, prisoners for they cannot fly as the birds, prisoners for they cannot consciously leave their bodies? I show you this, beloved, so that you will understand and ask yourself the question, do you desire to continue to be a prisoner when you are present in the very heart of life, when the bowl of immortality is your abiding place, when the great ovoid of life that is a part of God yet surrounds you, yet within your very own psyche, you are yet prisoners of the past ages, of past relationships, of past interchanges. Who then can say, I am free? Your holy Christ self can say, I am free. Your I am presence can say, I am free. You can say, I am freeborn, and I am gaining my immortality. But until you have mastered all elements of being, you are yet the paltry prisoner of self, and hardly better off than the animals you see roaming wild and living out their life expectancy. Thus, beloved, when you look at the reality and you look at the timetable of your own lifespan, it is well to consider just how determined you are to have that mastery of all planes of self and levels of being. Consider the fire body. Consider the body of the air element. Consider the physical body and ask yourself the question, how can you think you are free when you are yet in mortal form? Your answer should be, but we are spirits, and we soar out of the body at night, and we move among the immortals, and we journey to their retreats. May it be so, may it be so, may it be so, and not wishful thinking. May it be so, beloved, for this truly is the tracking of your star, the creating of a pathway through the skies whereby you can arrive at higher etheric octaves and know out of the prison house of the body etheric realms where you once were with Lord Maitreya and great adepts and bodhisattvas of Maitreya who now are in the higher octaves of the etheric plane, foregoing their ascensions to return for a coming golden age under Maitreya that they anticipate. And so there is a stillness, there is a hush, beloved, as the Buddhas in the higher octaves also bow to the hierarchs of the elementals, even as we bow to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. For we recognize the interchange, the mutuality of service that we bear, bringing the minds of the highest souls of the earth, among which we account not a few of you, to the level of the Buddhic mind, to the level of the Christ mind, to the level of the mind of such as Melchizedek and Zarathustra. You have the higher mind of God. You are God-free beings. But you have allowed yourself, the portion of yourself that is the soul, to be imprisoned here below. And unless that element be liberated, beloved ones, you will not liberate yourself or any elemental anywhere upon the planet. Thus consider yourselves out on a limb, perhaps floating farther and farther apart from the original mothership. Consider yourselves in a state when it is absolutely essential that you pursue that wholeness, both for yourself and for all evolutions that you might succor and heal and care for and liberate. I place a key in your hand, and this key is on a chain, a very heavy chain. I place it in your hand, that if and when and where, at some time and any time in the future, you find that you have stepped into an old prison cell, such as Philos did in his Atlantean embodiment, and the door does shut, and you have no way to get out. You will have this key, beloved, that I am empowered to give you this night. It is not a small key. You cannot lose it. It is heavy. Once you take it and use it to unlock your own prison cell, the prison cell of the mind and of the heart and of the solar plexus, the prison cell of many levels of being, then I say, when you are the truly liberated man, woman, at all levels of being, take this key, go forth, unlock doors, unlock the doors of those who are imprisoned by fallen angels, unlock the doors where elementals suffer and cannot do their work, for they are imprisoned in the curses of the fallen ones. Take the key, beloved. The key embodies the path, the teaching, and all that you know from ancient times as far back as Sirius. Some of you go back a long, long way, beloved. Thus you have the key, and the key to the kingdom is love. The key to the kingdom is sacrifice. The key to the kingdom is surrender to God. The fearlessness to turn over your very own soul to Almighty God and trust Him with it while you work out that karma. Use the key, beloved, for at subterranean levels and at the very basements of the oceans and under the oceans and beneath the beds of the oceans, there is elemental life. There are undines and salamanders, sylphs and gnomes, yes, beloved hearts, the sons and daughters of God. Hold that key, for I have given it to you this night. Yes, Neptune's locker, you have heard of it. Yes, you have heard of it. It is the opening of the depths. It is the opening of the place of retreats that are in the etheric octave, yet congruent with the center of the earth, and places between the center and the upper crust of the earth. So know, beloved, that you have come to this earth on a mission. Use the key. Unlock the prison house of souls by writing, by composing music, by finding new ways to lead the soul to that interior point of the mind where the seed of Buddha is sealed. We are Neptune and Luara. Know then henceforth that undines, whether 10 or 100 foot high, may move among you and may be in charge of many areas where there is hurricane, where there is storm, where the seas rise up and overtake the land and overtake homes and peoples. Know then that mighty undines working under us and the Elohim of God have dedicated all of their lives, a life that begins and ends, I remind you. They have dedicated what they are and who they are to your victory. I ask you, beloved, can you do any less but offer to them your life for their victory and their immortality? No. You have what they do not have, that threefold flame, yet they trust, yet they delight in the resurrection flame of their Lord and Savior. And there is no argument among them as to who that Lord and Savior is, Jesus Christ. And Maitreya, and Gautama Buddha, and Sanat Kumara, and Padmasambhava, and you, and you, and you. In the mighty action of the trident that bears the emblem of the fleur-de-lis, I am Neptune and Luara, Father, Mother of the undines of earth.